I became interested in collecting cars in the mid-70s. I always admired cars, liked them when I was in high school and couldn't afford them. And in the 70s, I purchased the Mercedes 280 SL, and I've owned it ever since. I did a small restoration job on it. But you know, in my 70s, I started to really get serious about collecting some cars. I started out with Mercedes. The only cars that I really collected were Mercedes. And then in the 2000s or late 90s, I started to go another avenue and collect some other cars that came along the way. I guess what I'm leading up to, you don't really go out and seek these cars out, somehow they find you. And that's happened to me a number of times, or a few times. I then got somehow onto a car that, long story, I won't bore you with that, but the car was what they call a White House car, and it's a 1934 1107 sedan car, and it's called the White House car. And on the firewall, you'll see the plate on there. It'll show it's the White House and delivered to the White House on that. And there again, I bought the car, and I just couldn't resist, so I had Levine restore that car for me. And I've shown it a little bit, never to Pebble Beach, but it's done okay. It's a real fine automobile. I had one more car after that. I just couldn't resist the temptation that, and the hard work that I had to put in to convince a fellow in Indianapolis, who I'll not name his name, but when he came to the Duesenberg. And he and I think, battled over that thing for about a year, and finally we came to agreement, and I purchased the Duesenberg, which I dearly love, and we've shown that car. That's one car that I didn't have to do anything to. It was just perfect, and other than the interior, I had new interior put in it and kind of changed that, and kind of did that to make sure that that car wasn't known by the former owner of it, and it's now kind of my car right now, but I love that. So that's really how I got started collecting cars. Well, you know, these things are like babies. I'm proud of every one of them. Do I have a favorite? You know, you always have a favorite. I suspect that, I hate to say this only because I got all of them are favorites, but I like the Duesenberg an awful lot. But to me, it's not going to play second fiddle to my Packards that I have. I like both of them real well, and they're kind of entirely different cars, but I guess, to be honest with you, the Duesenberg's the one that is really my favorite car. You know, you said history and why it's important to preserve this thing. Well, it is history. I was honored about 3 weeks ago to take my Duesenberg down with Chris McAllister in the Speedway Museum, Duesenberg down there, to be in front of the Duesenberg factory that was once at Harding and Washington Street. And I felt that I'm pretty honored to do that, because that's where that car was born. And I went down there, and it was very moving to see the turnout of people down there, and then to see the name Duesenberg Motors on top of that. And that's where that car was born, down there. And I think we have to preserve things like that. And hopefully the younger generation is on target to do that. I know a lot of the old guys have done it, including me, to do this thing, and I just hope that it lives on. And I got my son-in-law and my son, who I hope will remain active in this, and I've stressed to them that, hey, I'm not going to be around forever, but you're going to have to take these cars, and you're not going to shove these cars in garages and do that. You're going to have to spend the money and have the upkeep and that type of thing, because these people that work on these cars are getting fewer and fewer and fewer. And when you have somebody, you better remember where you got them and keep them and treat them the way they want to be treated. Well, I'm not an authority on this, but you know, you had Cole was in this town, you had the Marmon in this town, you had the Duesenbergs in Indianapolis, Northern Indiana had manufacturers up there. You had the Fisher body guy that Carl Fisher was in this town. I mean, my Lord, that's the history of what you have around this thing. And I think it's just very important, as well as Detroit. But I think you'll find that in the beginning, there was more done in this area than what there was done 300 miles north of us. And that's not taking anything away from Detroit, but this is where the nuts and the meats and the potatoes of this thing was.